Hey there, happy Thursday. Let's get you up to speed on the world of crypto today. This is The Hash. I'm Zach. We got Naomi, we got Jen, we got Will. Whole gang's here. We're ready to rock. I'm tossing this to Naomi for the first story of the day. Take it away, please.
So, some somewhat chilling news, I will say. Bank of England apparently tells its ministers to intervene on digital currency programming. Now, let's dive into what they mean by that. They're saying that digital cash, if they were to go ahead and release a central bank digital currency, it could be programmed to ensure that it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deem to be sensible. So this opens up a whole can of worms. We talk about programmability of digital money as this really exciting thing when it's in the hands of the individual. And now we're starting to realize that as long as governments want to get involved with this too, this could be a very chilling tool in the hands of government, where they could further curtail the choices of individuals in terms of what people are allowed to spend their money on. Apparently here, only sensible things as deemed by the UK government. It's kind of a scary state of affairs. I'm going to throw this straight to the group, and then we can dive into some of the other things that they were saying about this. Jen, what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation about CBDCs before on the show, but I think when people are introduced to the idea of digital currencies and the idea of a central bank digital currency, there's so much to wrap their heads around that I don't think a lot of people were thinking about, like, oh, programmable money could mean that it's dictated to me on how I spend my money that I've earned. So programmable money means that, like you said, Naomi, the government could have a say in how the money is spent. It also means that the money could expire. And it also means that, the government has full visibility into all the transactions that are made. So this is very scary. But the fact that the Bank of England is bringing this conversation up and it's being reported on, I think, is a good thing. I think we need to start speaking about this more publicly and having open discourse, and hopefully something good can come of that. It's such a new technology that, I mean, all we can do is talk about it and hope the right decisions are made. I see you frowning there, Naomi, so take it away.
I just think you are adorable, Jen Sanasi, in your optimism about this. I think it's so great that they're talking about this.
I'm just looking at the positive side here. It can't always be doom and gloom.
But sometimes it is, especially when you're dealing with things like the UK government, the place where they have literally dragnet capture of the entire internet through their Tempura program. So, I mean, it's obvious that they would want to put those controls in the financial space as well. The fact that they're bringing it up so blasé and saying, like, yeah, this is absolutely something we should consider, and not seeing the parallels drawn to what China is talking about in terms of controlling digital currency as well is startling. It's also interesting when they said, Treasury spokesperson said, programmability is a potential feature of a central bank digital currency. I don't think they understand what these currencies are. Like, I mean, programmability is inherent in it. It's what you program into it that will have to be decided. But programmability is the whole point of this thing. So the fact that they're even saying, like, it's a potential feature, like, they don't really understand what's going on. All they see is a potential to further control the choices of individuals with how they spend their money. Will, I'm going to throw this to you. What's your take on all of this? If it gets rolled out in the UK, I mean, US is next.
Yeah, I don't know if US is next. I don't know if it's going to happen in the UK either. I have a lot of doubts that anything like this would be able to be implemented. I think people will understand pretty quickly that their pocketbooks are going to be affected by a token like this that would be able to just curtail wherever you're going to purchase. That's pretty frightening. And I think if people understand that very quickly, I think we've seen a lot of civil rights eroded over the last 2+ years. And those have just kind of been on like the margins and on the sides, haven't been affecting people. But when it comes to the money in your pocket, that influences everybody. And I think there's like a lot of negatives about CBDCs that need to be discussed. Like the place of the commercial bank within the banking system almost becomes obsolete with CBDCs because you don't need to have commercial banks. You can just interact directly with the national bank and on the national level. So you have like this national to consumer interaction. Well, in that case, we have more central authority and less dictation about individual needs for money. And that's the whole point of cryptocurrency. The whole point for cryptocurrency industry becoming a thing was to benefit people with money that is programmable, money that is able to meet an individual's needs. But we're seeing that could just be kind of a nightmare scenario coming out of this whole thing. Zach, I want to throw this to you. What is your thought on it?
I got no thoughts. I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off this morning. Haven't read this story. Not going to fake it like I did. Tossing back to Naomi. Naomi, pick me up.
All right. So I do want to dive into this because you seem very confident this wouldn't happen. And I wish I shared your optimism. Like Jen and Will, you're both like a bright spark, a nice glow of sunshine shining into my doom and gloom universe right now.
I'm glad we're talking about it. I don't think we should even talk about it is a thing. Like, I think this is so against the freedoms that are ingrained in Western democracies.
But so you say democracies as if they are all the same, right? They're absolutely not. And the US government has a constitution that people seem like they want to uphold and they fight for it. Mm-hmm. The UK has no freedom of speech. They have all kinds of hate speech laws. They throw journalists in jail. Australia has no freedom of speech. They throw journalists in jail all the time. They're throwing activists in jail right now for incitement. Anyone who's like protesting anything, you know. So the US is not like other Western democracies. I don't think we should throw them all in the same camp, especially when the UK, I mean, don't they have like a porn license? You have to verify that you're over 18 to watch porn, which means you literally have to upload an ID which links to whatever porn you're watching. I mean, this is not a country that values freedom in any respect. They have the Tempora program is one of the most comprehensive internet surveillance programs in the world, right? And it's what the US government relies on as like a loophole so they can get, you know, most of the internet activity dragnet captured. Literally every single thing that goes in or out of the UK is recorded in giant databases. Every single thing that enters or leaves the country. You know, this is not a country that I would trust.
I'll tell you the reason why I think nothing's going to happen. That's because I think the cryptocurrency thing is out of the bag already. Like 17% of US citizens have Bitcoin, and there's a large percentage of people in the EU who have crypto. They're going to be able to use that as an alternative, and that's going to be competing with central bank money. And I think that's only going to grow over the next few years as central banks try to get their projects underway.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key point here is now that we have money and people aren't forced into these systems. I think you're absolutely right. We just need to educate people about the alternatives, and that's what we're here to do. So Jen, take us to our next story about educating people.
Yeah, another educational story here this morning on The Hash. Bitcoin.org went down last night after being hacked by an apparent giveaway scam. So yesterday, visitors to the site were greeted with a pop-up message on the homepage inviting people to send money to a Bitcoin wallet, and with the promise that their funds would be delivered at double the amount. So we've seen this scam time and time again in the crypto space. The whole homepage was taken over. So if you're trying to navigate the site yesterday, you couldn't get anywhere without sending money to this Bitcoin wallet. Ben's not here. This was like my ode to Ben today. So we need to get a good rant going. I'm going to throw this to you, Will, first. Like I said, this is a scam that's happened time and time again in the crypto space. But for people who are new to the space and they hear these stories about, you know, people getting rich really fast and like living this lavish life, they can fall victim to this. So what was your takeaway from the story, and what's your message to people who think they're gonna double their money quick?
My takeaway was that these people who took over the account failed utterly. They only got like 17 grand out of the whole thing, which I think they probably put more money
for a day's work.
No, that's pretty terrible. But probably taking over that website cost much more to do that than the money they got out of this. I think you look at the Twitter hack from, I think, summer 2020, and the guy only got like a little over $100,000 from the whole thing. Definitely not worth it for going to prison. There's better ways to rug pull out of money in crypto. So that's my pessimistic take on the whole thing. I think that someone brought up, I think it was Matt Odell. He said like there's way worse ways you could have taken over Bitcoin.org website. You could have put some malicious code into like downloads on the website. So if you want to download like the Bitcoin Core client, you could put some malicious code in there. That would have wreaked havoc if you had a lot of nodes going off the network in, say, a few months when people figure that out. But in general, like 17 grand is not that much. Zach, your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad you're looking out for the hackers. That's really good. For the users who got duped here,
it's kind of
words of advice.
I mean, seriously.
That's both sides of the story. Both sides of the story. You're really doing that justice. For the people who got duped here, there is something to be said. If it seems too good to be true, sometimes it is. Not always in crypto. It's kind of crazy, but if it seems too good to be true, It typically is. If you see someone posing as Elon Musk on Twitter saying, "Hey, send me some money here, and I'll send you some back," typically you don't want to do that. So in this instance, it's always good to remember, if it's too good to be true, whether it's a juicy story or offer of free money, sometimes it is indeed false. So that's what I would like to stress here. But I saw Naomi's hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to continue on with what you were saying, Will, because I think that's such a good lesson that we can be giving people. When you go to these websites, they put out there as these trusted resources. They're held on a pedestal. If you want to download the code, do it from one of these trusted sources. Now, if Bitcoin.org could get taken over, if they could get hacked, you're absolutely right. Malicious code could have been put in there. I mean, have they gone over that website with a fine-tooth comb? I really hope so, and make sure that there's nothing lurking. And this whole giveaway scam wasn't just like a ruse to deflect from more damage that was done under the hood. But regardless of whether something actually happened to Bitcoin.org, sorry, you're absolutely right, Will, that it could have, and people need to be really careful with the places they trust on the internet. A lot of the times, we are relying on these third parties to direct us to places where we can download the correct version of things, given that, you talk about Ben, he's done a lot of reporting on scam apps that appear in the App Store, in the Apple App Store, in Google Play, and they look legitimate, and you have to be really careful out there. So I guess it's just a cautionary tale to be super careful out there. If you're unsure of something, just find ways to verify, whether it's reach out to their Twitter account, reach out to something that is separated from whichever website you're having doubts about, and just try to confirm this stuff. It's a scary world out there, so you got to really be vigilant about protecting yourselves. But let's hand this back to Zach. What's coming up after the break?
Take a break. After we take a break, let's talk about Grape Network. This is the project whose IDO broke Solana last week, and that was a strong signal for some venture capital investors, and they piled in a bit more money to this team. We'll talk about that and more after the break. It's The Hash. Thanks so much.
When we say we want to reimagine money, it turns out we're going to the heart of the matter. Imagination has always been a key part of what money is. Imagination, in the form of cultural creativity, is also something that the cryptocurrency community has in spades. And to the outsider, that can be a reason to dismiss it as frivolous, as something built on nothing. To dismiss it for these reasons, though, is to ignore that all money is imagined.
Hi there. Remember when Solana went down for nearly 20 hours last week? Feels like a long time ago, huh? Well, the reason that happened was that there was an IDO for a project called Grape Network, and there was all these bots who were trying to buy up some tokens on this public sale. The bots were so fast and furious that it sunk the entire Solana network for nearly a day. Okay, now fast forward to now, the team that was behind that IDO, Grape Network, just raised an additional 1.2 million from the likes of Multicoin Capital and others to provide some additional tooling to the Solana ecosystem. I'm going to toss this to you, Will. It seems like Solana is in the headlines a lot these days, for good and bad. What does this say about the state of crypto venture capital?
Totally. And for those not in the know, an IDO is kind of like the old ICO of old time, but just a little bit different on chain. You got bots, all this other stuff going on. I think to speak to Solana here, it just says like Solana is very popular, but at the same time, it's not fully functional quite yet. And people who want to get into it just need to both understand that and also see like the long tailwinds effects here. So like if you look at Ethereum, it had a lot of problems in like 2016. There's like the Shanghai attacks and Ice Age issues. Now, a few years later, you're resting pretty nice if you invested in 2016. I think the same thing here with Solana. If you invested in January, you're doing really well. But even if not, like right now, not a bad time to invest, not financial advice, but not bad time to invest if you think that this whole project has legs and is going to go somewhere. So that's why you get in the ground floor with some of these products like Grapes, the Grape Network rather, that have the potential to kind of bring more people onto the Solana ecosystem. So I think in general, like it doesn't speak to a lot more than just like this project is new, it has somewhere to go, and that's what these projects do. So Naomi, I'm going to throw it to you for little more in-depth thoughts than I have on the subject.
Sure. So it was interesting to dive into what future tools they're planning here. So apparently a lot of this money is going to go towards helping crypto-based communities, from decentralized autonomous organizations to NFT clubs. The idea being that people will be able to connect their members' JPEG personas with internet messaging hubs like Discord. It's kind of interesting because we're looking into identity verification systems on all kinds of chains. This is not a new phenomenon. This is something that we've been diving into in the crypto space for a long time. And what's interesting about these identity verification platforms is they're not really used by consumers, like hands-on, right? They're not really integrated yet. I think it's kind of interesting looking at something like Grape and saying, okay, this may be a future use case that they're finding a way to verify. Like, for example, if you talk to someone on Discord, you can verify that someone has a certain NFT, and that can help verify their identity, etc. I think we're really at like level 0 for all of this stuff, because even when Grape gets going, they're going to integrate with different platforms. But at the end of the day, users don't want to have any part of this. If you ask a user to implement these extra layers to verify that they're talking to someone, they're not going to do it. Whereas if you in-build it to Signal, and it's a super easy process, it's all there in the app and it's completely seamless, people do tend to use these, but it requires integration at this platform level. So we're really at the super early stages of all these verification systems. And I'm interested to see where this goes next and what kind of services start to integrate these kind of things. Because it's very easy. I mean, it's super, we were just talking about scams in the last segment, right? It's so important in the digital age to be able to verify that who you're talking to is who you think you're talking to, right? So to be able to use these verification systems, I think it's going to become increasingly popular. But I'll throw this to you, Zach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this is just pseudonymous reputation, which I think is a burgeoning field in the crypto space, especially with these NFT collectors and other artists and people who want to say, hey, I'm that same person on Ethereum as I claim to be on Solana. And I think it's going to get really interesting should these tools start to sprout up. But I did want to harken back to sort of what Will was saying. I often think of these networks as like sort of like housing developments. The blockchain is like the pipes and like the roads, and in some weird future world, the houses are built by other parties. So Solana is that housing development. Here's all these other parties who are trying to build on the hottest neighborhood in town, and you have all these investors rushing in to get a slice of whatever that next house in the housing development is going to be. And I think probably the excitement for this project probably does speak to the excitement around Solana rather than the excitement around what Grape is building at present and could build in the future, though those plans are quite interesting down the road. So it's really interesting to see just people rush in to Solana as a network, as again, the price of Sol as native asset has surged, and as a bunch of people in turn look to build on that greenfield. So it's interesting to see what this next this next project or two commands in terms of investor interest, but time will tell. Jen, do you have any thoughts on the old Grape?
Naomi took most of my thoughts from me. I was thinking a lot around the whole play on digital identity. We talk a lot on this show about proving ownership over NFTs, and the fact that VCs it's a little bit of money compared to the amount of VC money we talk about. Usually, it poured 1.2 million into this project. Tells me that the VCs are starting to understand the issue around NFT ownership and digital identity. And maybe we'll see some of that large NFT money that we see going into the platforms into solving some of these problems that we talk about often, but we'll see.
We'll take it away.
Love the thoughts. We're going to talk about Amber Network now. Okay. Amber Group rather. It's not a protocol. So Amber Group is weighing a direct listing in the US, according to its CEO. So Amber Group is a market maker and just a larger financial system out in the China area. And they're looking at they're worth about $1 billion after a valuation this previous summer. They closed a $100 million funding round in June with a lot of different teams, including Coinbase Ventures and blockchain.com. And of course, they're looking at the US. They're open-minded to other locations. But the reason that this is kind of raising some eyebrows is just because a lot of the financial applications that Amber Group has are also in the crosshairs of the SEC currently. For instance, look at the lending application that Coinbase just withdrew because the SEC said don't raise that, we'll sue you. And Amber Group has a lot of those products also. So if they moved into the US market, they would have to fall under some of the US regulations, which of course would really, really hurt their business model. Naomi, I want to get your thoughts on this. Someone not listing on the US exchange obviously is money out of US consumers' pockets because they have less options for financial applications. What is your thought here on Amber Group, maybe or possibly coming to the US?
Yeah, I mean, it's another example of someone who has honed in on value that consumers want. They want these services. And it's really disheartening to see the US kind of block this stuff and to see reports about like, well, this may not even come to the United States because of regulatory requirements. So it is super sad to see people missing out on that stuff, especially because we talk about crypto as being this great leveler. It's the thing that is meant to break down barriers to entry. The traditional financial system, I mean, you had like Occupy Wall Street movement. Like you've had so many protest movements based around the idea that existing financial system is an unfair system. You have the treasury and you have banks and they have like a direct line of credit to the treasury. You just have all this money printing. It just directly gets injected into, the coffers of a lot of these people. It's just a very corrupt system in a lot of ways. We were always hoping crypto would solve that, and it did. And now the US government is saying, actually, we're going to curtail your choices once again. You can't have access to this. You need certain licenses, and then the platform will probably need certain identification and verification from people in order to use this product. Maybe they need to be accredited. So again, it's only the people who already have money who will have access to these things. Like it's just a really difficult situation. In the US, I don't know if you guys have ever participated in securities offerings that were licensed, where you have to prove you're an accredited investor, right? I mean, the barriers that people have to overcome, you have to have a tremendous amount of money. You have to have savings, so you have to have income, that's over a certain threshold. These things are not available to certain segments of society. So to say that, well, they could come into America, all they need to do is go through the right gateways, get the right licenses. They just need to become a registered securities offering service. And it's just not that simple. That doesn't mean that people get access to it. It means that some people get access to it. And that's exactly the financial system that we're trying to break down with crypto. It's unfair to curtail the choices of some people, and say you can only participate and have the ability to earn 4% interest if you already make a ton of money or have a ton of money. It's just a very unfair system. But Will, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I have a question for Zach that we can give to Jen here in a second. DAOs have obviously been a huge thing through this last year, and we've kind of seen most DeFi applications or protocols kind of wrap DAOs into their base layer for deciding how governance structure works. I'm wondering when that becomes an issue with regulators. Do you have any thoughts on that becoming a thing?
That's a good question. Yeah, I wonder when regulators will figure it out. I think a lot of these projects have been kind of flying under the radar, and then they get to a certain level of mass awareness, and then it's like, oh, okay, wow, wait a minute, we got to check this thing out, pump the brakes. I feel like there's a lot of things right now in the ecosystem that are still under the radar, and we're just now seeing the things like crypto lending, BlockFi, Celsius, Coinbase, products that have been around for years, but all of a sudden are at enough of a scale where it's sort of percolated to the desk of regulators in states and in the federal government. So that's sort of my read on how that's parsed out. I mean, we're still sort of seeing the tail end of ICO enforcement from the 2017 era. So whether Gary Gensler is going to be knocking on the door of a creator with the social token tomorrow, I don't think that's going to happen because again, it's just under the radar right now. But down the road, should that grow in might and in stature, that might just so happen. But we'll see. I'll pass it down to Jen because I saw her hand up.
Yeah, just echoing what Naomi was saying. So the Amber Group CEO said the US is likely a destination, but we're open-minded. And when they raised that Series B, they said they were going to focus on what consumers wanted. And just like Naomi was saying, it's very obvious that US consumers want products like this, but it's just another example of how regulation and the SEC is pushing innovation to look elsewhere, and they're not focusing on consumer protection and what consumers want. And so I think as we see more and more examples of this, it's just a sad state of affairs for the US. And I don't see the SEC doing anything that benefits consumers right now. So I started the show on a high note, and Now here I am
I'm
in my
sorry,
emotions
Jen.
again.
I
It's
feel
all
like
right.
I partly to
It's
blame for this.
all
And I was
right.
like, no, Jen, focus on the
Yeah,
dark
you just-
clouds.
Yeah, I know. I start so happy at what time? 12 o'clock. And by 12:30, I'm down in the dumps.
All right. Well, you know, Amber Group is low key important in terms of institutional stuff. And every time I see the pictures that we run the Amber Group, I think of the 311 song, Amber. It was the color of your energy. So you should listen to that song. It'll
Oh
bring
my
you up.
goodness.
What do you think, Jen?
I will.
Good
All right,
advice.
I'm
Good
going to do
advice.
that right now.
Good advice.
Yikes.
A 311 classic for aged millennials such as myself. Shout out to 311. Shout out to the Hash. That was another show in the books. Good times. We're going to be back for the Friday show tomorrow. Who knows what dated music reference Zach will make then. Should be exciting. Until then, I'm signing off. Will Foxley, thanks so much. Jen Sanasi, thanks so much. Naomi Brockwell, thanks so much. We're the Hash. We'll be back tomorrow. Stick around. All about Bitcoin, 3 p.m. Eastern, CoinDesk TV. That and so much more. CoinDesk.com, your place for crypto news. Talk to you later. Good times. 311.
Bye.